Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to a new episode of my podcast, Real Talk with Q Alexander. This is a very special episode that I'm looking forward to sharing with you all. Earlier today, I made a post on my Facebook page. My cousin Randall on my father's side will sometimes make a comment on some of the pictures of myself that I post. So yesterday, I posted a picture and he commented, Lil Steve. Steve is my father's name. So we laughed about it. And I always thought that I looked like my father, so I definitely take it as a compliment. He was a very handsome man. So I'm just a female version of him. When I got home in the evening, I started to think about the special memory that I'm going to share with you. And I think that by my cousin just making that comment, it somehow just brought this back into my mind. It's something that I never forgot, but just him mentioning my father, it brought back one of the memories that mean the most to me. So I'm going to go ahead and share it. When I was in elementary school, between the 3rd and 4th grade, I had a best friend and her name was Victoria. I went to Scott Lake Elementary in Miami, Florida. We were cheerleaders, we participated in dance competitions, we ran track together, we had sleepovers, we would stay up and talk for hours until we fell asleep. She was like the sister I never had and always wanted. Both of her parents were around. Her mom was always at our cheerleading events and dance competitions. I remember one day Victoria and I were on the phone and she asked me, "Where's your father?" We were best friends, so I'm sure it's something she always wondered about. And I never brought it up. I told her he was murdered when I was younger. And at that time, I'm not sure that I had all the details about what happened to him, but I did find out more later in life. A few years ago, actually. I wrote about it in Dangerous Intentions, Mouthful of Lies. I talked briefly about it, and I wrote a whole chapter on it in my second book, Fearless Woman. But if you haven't had a chance to read either of my books, I'll go ahead and share what happened to him. From what I was told, my father was a drug dealer. And one day, he met up to sell drugs to a man. And the man's girlfriend came up behind my father and stabbed him in the neck with an ice pick. I'm not sure what the purpose of that was. Maybe it was to rob him, to just take the drugs from him. I'm not sure if he had money on him, and I really don't know why that was done to him. He tried to drive himself to the hospital, but obviously he didn't make it. And that's one of the most gut-wrenching things for me to think about, because I know he suffered. Being stabbed in your neck in trying to drive yourself, I know he had to be bleeding profusely, probably losing consciousness as he's trying to drive himself. So the thought of that is so heartbreaking. And just wondering the thoughts that were going through his mind, knowing that he wasn't going to make it, knowing that he was no longer going to be here for me, knowing that what he was doing was not a good thing, but his reasons for doing it was to provide for me. And it's so hurtful to think about. Sometimes people are really good people, but they make a poor choice or poor choices. And I was too young to remember much about him, but I've always been told that he had me with him a lot, spending time with me, bringing me gifts, as much as he could. People always saw him just showing up for me. And unfortunately, he made a choice that cost him his life. And I don't look at him in a bad way for doing that. There are some people who grow up in environments and they're introduced to things that are not good for them. Sometimes that's all that they know, or maybe it's a temporary thing, that they don't plan to do long term, but it's a way for them to make quick money, especially when you have a child or have children. And so I look at it as he did what he thought was best. Is probably something that he did many times, and unfortunately he ran into some evil people. And every time I think about that, it really hurts. It hurts a lot. And so after explaining what happened to him, to Victoria, she was very sad. I could hear it in her voice. And I could also hear her father. His name is Victor. He was in the background. And I heard him ask, "What is her father's name?" And I said, "Steve." And then I heard him ask, "Steve what?" And I said, "Steve Simmons." And almost immediately, he got on the phone and he said, "I knew your father." I was in disbelief. I couldn't believe that he said that. I couldn't believe that I was best friends with his daughter. I've been around him. And all that time, he was connected to my father.